It is time for Ask the Mayor on KWBE with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. Good morning, Mayor. How are you today?
I'm good. Good morning, Doug.
Nice day. It's been a little cool and windy lately, but fighting toward getting to spring and summer.
I think we're getting there. I think today the wind isn't going to be nearly as rough as it has been the last 2 or 3 days, so I think that's a good thing.
That is. Wanted to start out with today, of course, Monday's kind of a big day across the country because even though we're not in the path of totality, we have this eclipse that's affecting southern U.S. and into the eastern part of the country. And back in 2017, we went through this. And what do you remember about that? What was the image you'll take away from that?
I think the image that I'll take away is, well, first of all, it's really a pretty cool experience.
Yeah.
You know, there's no question that an eclipse is worth watching, and so I understand the fever pitch of that. But I was surprised a little bit about, number one, the number of traffic that it brought to the area. But then I thought it was really interesting, too, as the eclipse comes through, things kind of change weather-wise and where the best spot is. And the people that really want to get the best views were jumping in their vehicles and just moving a little bit away from us, because I think we were having some cloud cover that day.
Yeah.
I know that at the college we had prepared for a big crowd, because we got all that open space, and then when the clouds started rolling and they were looking for better spots to watch the eclipse, I remember watching the eclipse, which we did get to see in all the different parts of it, but didn't quite have the groves of people that we thought we would.
And there were so many people that if you tried to move a long distance, you were going to be maybe missing it all, because let's say you wanted to go 30 or 40 miles to find a different spot, you were probably going to be out of luck because so many people were on highways and things like that. So,
well, I think the other thing too that if I remember right, I think it was a massive traffic jam just to get out of Beatrice. I mean, they were coming from
I was
home.
Stuck in it.
You were stuck in it. So, that's the most traffic I think we've seen in a very long time.
The longest it's ever taken me to travel 4 miles from the homestead back to the radio station. It was because we had been out there pretty early to do kind of live coverage, and so we got out there really early in the morning, but getting out of there was a different story. The one thing that I remember about it, probably a year and a half before it actually happened, then Chamber President Laura Young at the time.
Yes.
I remember her coming before, I think, the county board, maybe the city council, saying, hey, we need to be ready for this. And I kind of remember people met it with kind of it's not going to be that big of a thing. There's no, are you serious? They're kind of like that. She turned out to be a prophet because she kept saying that, get ready for this because this is what's going to happen. People are going to come to this area. You're going to see more people than you've seen in a long time, and she was right on it.
She was. I think about, this eclipse happens to be not too far from Fort Campbell where my son's stationed, so I'm going to call him, I think a couple of days from now and say, well, are you taking the kids out of school? Are you going to watch it? What's going to be your role? I know they're not in totality, but they're going to be closer than what we are.
Yeah. Now you and Kelly go down to Arkansas, Missouri once in a while. Are you near that path or pretty close to it?
No, we're about 120 miles away.
I see.
In relative terms, that's probably not too far away. Yeah.
So we'll get some kind of effect from it, but it just won't be won't be like 2017. Right. So, I always kind of wonder, and I don't know if anybody ever had a chance to even estimate it or tabulate it, but when that happened here, how much business traffic and spending was associated with that. Because you see things now where, you can't find a motel, a bed and breakfast. Right. Everybody's charging more than they would normally because of the captive audience they're going to have. It always kind of made me wonder what kind of economic impact might that have had.
Well, I'm sure it did have a good economic impact. I think all of our hotels and motels were full. Mm-hmm. I think that I think you had the same issue with the traffic jam. Most of our restaurants were full, and when you bring people to town, they still have to fill up. Yeah. So I'm sure you're right. I wish it was measured, but I bet it was pretty good.
Yeah. The other thing I remember about is how many people were part of some committee or some effort to sort of get ready for it, because I know there were meetings held ahead of time, regular meetings, almost like a committee meeting,
sure,
just trying to figure out what's happening. And so there was a lot of planning that went into it with the homestead and everything.
It was. And, you know, and I think from if you want to talk about from the city's perspective or, even the county's perspective, I think law enforcement had a pretty good handle. I don't think they expected that many, but I think they had a pretty good handle on, at least from the security standpoint.
Yeah. All kinds of drone footage and aerial shots of all the people. That's pretty cool to look back at that.
It is.
And don't think we'll ever see another audience like that in a while.
No, and as I think about it, you and I may never see another total eclipse.
I think the next one is what? Is it 2044 or 40, somewhere in there?
I think it was 2044.
Not sure I'll make it to that.
No.
But it's hard to say.
And I'm not even sure where that's going to be.
Not sure where the path of totality will be on that one. Anyway, it'll be an interesting thing, and we'll get some taste of it, just not directly this year.
That's right.
Let's see. On Wednesday, the city, I guess Mars, Midwest Area Refuse Solutions, starting their yard waste collection program for the year. What kind of a little extra charge if you want to be a part of that?
I should have looked that up before I came.
And I was going to too, and I forgot.
I'm thinking it's roughly around $10 a month.
Yeah.
It runs from April through October 31st, and that's also the same span that you can't put your grass clippings in your regular waste cans to keep it out of the landfill. The grass collection area will be open as well. But when you think about it, for $10 a month, putting it out once a week, that's a pretty good bargain to get it out to the grass pile out by the landfill. Some things to remember about it, though, is it's an all or nothing thing. It's billed every month, but you get billed for April through October. So if you decide to join in May, you still got to pay for April. And if you want to quit in September, you still pay for October. So, when you think about it, that's what? April, May, June, July, August, September, October. It's roughly 7 months, so it's $70 roughly. And so,
ever any thought of changing that and allowing people to get in midway through the summer? Or is it just a nightmare from a record?
I think from a record keeping is a nightmare, and I think again one of the ways to keep the cost at the $10 across the board is you're going to have some months where you're not going to have much, but you're also going to be real busy in that grass growing season.
Yeah. And for somebody who maybe doesn't own a pickup and has a bunch of bags of grass, it's nice to have somebody else haul it out, and you don't have to make that drive.
That's exactly right. It's real simple. You put it out, they come pick it up, and it's gone.
Yep. Back with more in a moment on Ask the Mayor. Back on Ask the Mayor today with Beatrice Mayor Bob Morgan. We're going to talk about some landfill issues here in just a moment. We got a question in just before that. Has to do with, and I don't quite understand where they're going with this, but their question is, why were the garbage bids never publicly opened? And the only thing I can think of is that when you went from Sanitary Garbage Company was your garbage hauler, but then you opted to go the Mars route after that. You did consider proposals from other companies, if I remember right.
Yeah, I think there was a couple of proposals as well. I mean, I guess I didn't sit in this seat as mayor at that point in time, but I thought that at least was publicly discussed. I know it was, and I know another thing that was publicly discussed is we brought in a consultant about the city taking over that project that was discussed at a city council. So, I mean, I'd have to go back and check because I'm at a little bit of a loss as well.
Seems like without knowing of course you'd have to pull the figures out of the sky right now, but it seems like the cost to go with somebody like, I think like Waste Management or something like that was a lot higher than you could do it yourself.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Waste Management was one of the companies to consider, or Waste Connect, I think is what they went by, and I think it was a pretty steep increase.
Yeah.
So.
And you can kind of control what kind of service you offer and what you can charge for it. And I know there was a discussion at the time, too, do you go the route of a transfer station? Because I think that was weighed, too, as an option. Right.
There was a way, and probably with Waste Connect, it probably would have ended up being a transfer station because they transfer everything up to Milford. So, I think it was one of those decisions that were made to really try to make sure that the garbage was done efficiently. And also that it helped lower or keep the cost relatively the same as sanitary garbage. At the end of the day, we found ourselves in that situation because sanitary garbage always did a good job, but they got to the point where they were done. They were no longer wanting to be in business, and that's their choice. And so at the end of the day, we chose what we felt was best for the city.
Well, the landfill you have right now is getting to the end of its useful life. Several cells have been used out there, and I think there was a building onto one of the cells one time too, and some work there. But you're going to be building a new one now across the road to the south there, and a couple of steps were taken this week. One to on a bid for the paving of part of Southwest 32nd to the new access there, and then also the engineering agreement.
Yes, we'll build. We need to put an asphalt road down there. The site is going to be where if they have a lot of big limbs that they take over, it's basically across the road, and there's a place for brush and things over there, plus the C&D side or construction and demolition spot. There is room for 7 cells over there, and each cell that is developed will last somewhere between 10 or 12 years, and so we'll have over 70 years of opportunity to get rid of our waste there. I think it's been interesting for me because I didn't know that much about landfills, but I'm learning a lot. And we all have garbage. I mean, that's one of the things, and I think recycling is still a good thing to consider and do, but we still have to get rid of a lot of waste. And you don't have a lot of choices anymore of where you can take your waste. And so by opening up a new cell and a new landfill, it really kind of, what I would say, controls our own destiny to continue to offer a good service to get rid of the garbage at a reasonable rate. Because as you are talking off air, you got a site in Milford, you might have a site in David City, there might be one down in Kansas and one in Iowa. But you have to realize that those are a long ways away. And so not only do you have a transfer station, you also have transportation cost. Fuel doesn't get any cheaper. Trucks don't get any cheaper. And so this allows us to be competitive here, not only for us, but in the area. And so we believe that's going to position us for, 70 years to control our own destiny with our own garbage. Now, in 70 years, there may be a whole new solution to get rid of it. Who knows? Yeah. But at least it puts us in a safe zone where we aren't having to raise our or increase our prices as oil goes up. We don't have to increase our prices, as you go through transfer stations. There are other costs, absolutely, but at the end of the day, having our own landfill is by far the most economical thing for us to have for the citizens of Beatrice.
The other thing, too, and I think Mars is maybe starting its fourth or fifth year. Over time, that collection entity, which is an enterprise, I mean, it's funded by the fees.
Right.
It has picked up more customers along the way. In fact, you have some that once went to these other landfills are now coming to you.
Yeah, that is correct. And I guess that's one of the first things to say is there's no taxpayer money going into Mars. It is a revenue generating or a revenue cost center where it pays for itself. And we've had a number of people in the Gage County area that have some of the smaller communities that have contracted with Mars. And I think if you look at, and it's kind of it's a acronym, but there is a board that runs the landfill, BOSWA. There are council members and people from the county board on that one, and we've all taken a good look at the best thing for not only Beatrice but Gage County as well.
The project and the engineering, the design of it, not just the first cell, but it's going to include some buildings out there too.
Yes, we'll put up 2 scales. Right now we have 1. We'll have a building or 2 for storage and also for office. We'll be a little more efficient with 2 scales where you pull in and you weigh, and another scale to weigh out. And it's pretty busy out there. I mean, occasionally I'll drive out there and take some stuff out to the grass or whatever and just kind of observe. But not only we have more than just the garbage trucks rolling in there.
Yeah. The other thing too, and I really had never thought of it much, but one of the things this new one is going to include is a small tornado or storm shelter.
Right.
Which you don't really think of that, but you got employees out there that are kind of exposed to if you have disasters or big storms, this is kind of a neat thing to do.
Right. It's taking care of our employees that are out there. Mm-hmm. And, you know, as they get into the engineering and actually the building of it, it'll be quite interesting because it's not like just going out and digging a hole. Yeah. I mean, there'll be a plastic liner, or I don't know if it's plastic, but there'll be some type of liner put down. Mm-hmm. I think as we heard, there's the water that runs off a landfill needs to go into our sanitary sewer system. It can't just be run off into ponds, so we have to figure out how to take care of the water that runs off when it rains. You know, the companies that come in and actually do the building have a lot of knowledge in their employees as they build that landfill.
Mm-hmm. When would people kind of see actual construction start? Or is there any kind of target on that? Or
I think we said we were look probably after the first of all, you know, it has to have an engineering and design, and that will take some time. I think that engineering design. I
didn't know if it was before the end of this year construction or
no.
Early next year.
I think it's early next year. I think it's April of 2025.
Because I think at one time there was mention of maybe in the fall or winter it would kind of get underway. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of parts to this. And,
there'll be some design things that'll take place first. We're thinking April of 2025 or that about time frame. The one little cell you talked about, we call it a piggyback. Mm-hmm. You know, it bought us some time, and obviously we must still be in pretty good shape with the piggyback. Yeah. And I think that's the other thing that, you know, again, I had to learn. There is going to be post-closure costs and monitoring. When you cover everything up and you close the old dump, you're still going to have to monitor that ground because we don't want any pollution or anything else to get out of there. So, you know, it's one of those processes that will probably monitor that site for 30 years.
All kinds of environmental regulations, state and federal. You just don't go, like you say, take a spade and dig a hole and then start dumping garbage in it. It doesn't work that way.
You know, it's a little different than just having a burn barrel in the backyard.
Yeah. I remember those old days.
Me too.
We used to think nothing of that. Now those days are gone. There are some areas that still do that, are allowed, but hardly.
But not in the city.
Yeah, that's for sure. Okay. We'll be back to wrap up Ask the Mayor in just a moment with Mayor Bob Morgan. Cemetery Records Project, I know the association that kind of coordinates or takes care of Evergreen Home Cemetery and the Beatrice Cemetery on Scott Street. Went before the Gage County Board recently, got a visitor's grant from there to help with their project. Also now a city allocation of $18,000 on this records project. Kind of a neat thing and kind of, in a way, a needed thing because you're like one disaster away from losing some history there. If you
really are. Yeah. You know, we found out yesterday, or on Monday night, all the records are still on paper. Mm-hmm. If you end up buying a plot there, you still use a duplicate where you handwrite it, and then you got a duplicate that you did it. If we had a tornado or a storm blow away where the records are kept, we would lose the ability to track where everybody happens to be. And, you know, when I think about that project, at first it's like, oh, wow, you know, that's $18,000. How does it help the city? But there's a lot of ways that it does help the city. I mean, first of all, those record keepings are important. Second of all, I think about how many people come to Beatrice for ancestry research.
Genealogy.
And so here again, this is going to be a tool that's going to be used for genealogy. And you think about how, you know, the Homestead National Park has been really instrumental in genealogy. Probably the right place to be. Mm-hmm. And so I think we're excited about that project. You know, I'm glad the board was forward thinking, and I think that at the end of the day, that's going to be a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Property that was bought last year north of Sargent, west of Ridgeview Drive, is now in the city.
It is.
Cleared the final annexation hurdle, reading it 3 separate times. The question is on that property do you look for future use of that pretty quickly, or is there some interest in that ground, or now that it's in the city, you just kind of go from here?
Well, I think there is always, you know, interest in, you know, industrial park property. I think the big thing is what's the best use for it. Mm-hmm. And I think, again, this allows us to have a couple of tools that we have, either a good-sized industry wanting to come to town with our tax increment financing and our LB 840. It just gives us more tools that can attract quality business.
Yeah. lot of space out there too.
There is.
For anybody that was looking.
Yes. Yeah, there is a lot of space. There's a little section that may or may not be buildable, but at the end of the day, I think there's 85 acres.
Yeah, something like that, 80 or 85, yeah. Okay. You had your audit and comprehensive financial report review Monday. We won't go through the whole 130-page document here in 2 minutes, but anything stand out for you in that report overall, just in a general sense?
Overall, the city's in a great financial position. Number two, we have been transparent because you can find the audit and the financial report on the website as well as everything else. I think our finance director, Hannah Bell, who's been with us now in that position for about 2 years, is doing a good job. And the audit and the financial report was exceptional. And it has been for a long time, and we want to continue to keep it there.
You know, I just was looking through on the website, the report and the comprehensive financial report, and the audit numbers, and I'm thinking, it's amazing the size of an enterprise, a city government, and then a Board of Public Works is too. I mean, you can get flooded with numbers, and it can kind of glaze you over a little bit looking at it. But it's a lot of work to coordinate all that.
It is. You know, it's very well laid out. But as you think about costs, you know, there's almost for everything we do, there's a bucket, or what I call a cost center from my college days. And so, you know, when you expend $35, it goes into a cost center that's got money.
Yeah.
And at the end of the year, you take a look and you say, okay, did we make our budget? Did we not make our budget? And we do that line by line. So it is labor intensive, but it's the way to keep us in great financial shape.
You know, and I noticed that covered the fiscal year through September 30th of last year, and people may wonder, well, why does that take so long? You're getting to it now. But the audit process and going over things, that's a multi-month thing to do, isn't it?
It is. They came in, I believe, in October. They came back in December. And then from December until you saw the report, they compiled everything and went over as much as they could to make sure that, A, we're doing the right things, B, there isn't anything materially wrong that the city's doing, and C, we are in a transparent, best place to be.
Yeah. South 13th project, I haven't been down there because I haven't been out to play a round of golf in a while, weather-wise or work-wise here, but understand there's already some construction underway.
Yes, I think most of the concrete on what I guess would say the west side of the road has been torn out. You know, I think they started on Monday, and they will continue to do that. I would just tell people that if you're trying to go to, you know, like the country club area, the best thing to do is turn there at 8th Street and wind around to Oak Street, because when you get down to Beaver, traffic there runs only one way because they're down to one lane, because we need to get people in and out of their neighborhoods. And so if you're not heading to that country club neighborhood there that only has one way or one way in or out, best route is to go turn at 8th Street and come up around the curve and hit Oak Street.
Electronic signboards up?
Yes.
Can't remember. Yeah,
electronic signboards. There is all kinds of barriers and instructions that are posted out there. So we hope that everybody can pay attention to what's being there.
You get to see it every day. You reside in that area out there. So you take the Oak Street road.
I take the Oak Street road. I do, yes. And I will tell you one thing. If you're in the early morning or in the evening, when you get around the curve, there's quite a population of turkeys and deer.
Yeah.
So you want to slow down slowly, and just make sure that you're watching what you're doing, because there is. I saw a bunch of turkey there yesterday, and the deer are prevalent.
Yeah, they know where to hide when they stay out of firearms season and things like that. So,
yes, they do.
You should drive carefully down there because there is a big crossing.
So I just say that as just as a Bob Morganism.
Yeah, well, and I've nearly hit one coming out of there. I mean, they come running across that road sometimes, and they're not looking for cars, so maybe you ought to be looking for them. So maybe just a reminder, we only have 20, 30 seconds left, but coming up on, I think it's April 11th, you have an open house Safe Streets program.
Correct.
It's one of those late afternoon things.
Yep.
Yeah. Where's that going to be at? Is it the library?
I think it is at the library. Check our Facebook. Amanda does a great job of keeping everybody informed.
Okay. Mayor, thanks for being in with us again.
Doug, thank you.